Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is the September meeting of the Newbie User Group. Now, there's going to be a lot of you out there today. As a matter of fact, there's probably going to be a couple hundred live on the call today. What we'd like you to do while we wait a few minutes for more people to join, just go out to the chat and let us know where you're from. And also, today is the first day of fall, or at least it's the first day of fall in my part of the world. If you're in the southern part of the world, I guess it's probably the first day of spring. If you have something special planned, something that you want to do this fall that you're looking forward to, just kind of put that in the chat also. We'd kind of like to know that. Just so you know, what I am planning on doing this fall is I'm going to Maine in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that. And it so happens one of our co-leaders is in Maine right now. Maddie's up there enjoying vacation, and I plan to see the leaves, and I'm really looking forward to that. I saw somebody there from Madison, Wisconsin. Madison, Wisconsin. I absolutely love Madison, Wisconsin. Absolutely beautiful place. And I see Milwaukee's in the house also. Tori is going to Berlin to speak. Tori, thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah. Awesome. There's somebody from Baltimore, somebody from Los Angeles that I saw, New Jersey, different states in the US, so many people joining.
Okay, now
one of our first participants I messaged or something, I think it's Syed. He's from Cairo, Egypt. So he joined like he was the first participant that actually logged in here. So
okay. And I never heard of the Mustard Museum, but if I remember up in Madison again, I'm going to have to stop. I'm going to have to stop in and see it. For those of you who don't know, Madison, Wisconsin is the home of Wisconsin University, and I happen to be a Purdue graduate. I have often said, if I had gone to Wisconsin, I probably wouldn't have graduated because Wisconsin is so beautiful, and Purdue's in the center of a cornfield. So there wasn't a whole lot to do at Purdue for me, and it kept me out of trouble. Okay, we're beginning now. We're beginning to fill up. There's over 100 of you out there right now. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and there's going to be more people joining as we go on, but let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we want to thank you for being here. We mean that sincerely. It really means a lot to us, to the entire team, that you're here and you're sharing your time with us. But we also want to thank you for being part of the community. The community is a very special thing that separates Salesforce and Tableau from other groups out there, and we're really, really pleased that that you're spending your time with us, and we hope you enjoy the day. Just a few housekeeping. You'll notice that your audio and video have been turned off. And with the number of people that are going to be on the call today, the bandwidth just isn't able to handle that many people. We do encourage you to use the chat to talk back and forth amongst yourselves. So if you have any questions for the presenters, please put it in the Q&A. We're going to try to monitor that, and we're going to try to respond to your questions as you place them in the Q&A. It gets a little difficult with this many people and the chat getting active. It's pretty difficult for us to keep up with what's going on in the chat, but we'll get to them if they're in the Q&A. One final thing, the event is being recorded, and we record all of our events. That recording is usually available within a couple days after the event has closed, and it's out there on the website. And Viraj already has a link out there. I can see it posted in the chat where the link is recorded. I guarantee you that within a couple minutes, someone will come in and say, "Is the event going to be recorded?" And you can tell them that, in fact, yes, it is going to be recorded. I know some of you are new to this group, and just a little history about the group. Klaus, who unfortunately can't be with us today, and I started this group 4 years ago. This is, we're 4 years into the Newbie user group, and we started it because Tableau as a whole felt that there was a large group of new to Tableau users or people who wanted to advance their skills who weren't in a tug group, and maybe they didn't feel comfortable in a tug group. It felt like, oh, the tug group really didn't speak to them. So our role here is to help new users and users who want to advance their skills be comfortable in a tug, and also advance their skills and learn more about how Tableau works. With that, we know you're not going to be us. You're not going to be with us throughout. At some point in time, you're probably going to matriculate, or you're going to go to a more advanced group, and we plan on that. Annabelle, the leader of the analytics group, is a very good friend of mine, and I kid her all the time that we keep sending her new people. So we know that you're going to go to other groups, and we encourage you to go to other groups, and also check out industry groups or local groups where you are. Our meetings take place every 6 to 8 weeks, so we have about 7 meetings a year, and there's 2 parts to those meetings. It's the how does that work part, and members of the newbie team make that presentation. We take a deep dive into something you might want to know about in Tableau. And then we have a featured speaker or a guest speaker who comes in and speaks on a topic that you have suggested. And if you have a suggestion for a topic that you'd like to learn more about, just put it in the chat and we'll try to follow up on that. Now, today, specifically, after I get done talking, Viraj, one of our co-leads, is going to talk about actions. And actions allow you to take to work from one dashboard to another dashboard, or between worksheets. Viraj is one of the Tableau ambassadors, and he's going to be talking about the variety of different actions you can use. And then we have a real special guest, Kevin Wee is a Tableau visionary, and he is going to talk about, and I say this, data infographics with 5 graphic design concepts. I mean, this is, Kevin's a great speaker, and I'm really looking forward to this, this part of the presentation. I'd like you to meet the team. Swathi, well, why don't you come online and tell everybody where you are and
hello.
Your experience.
Hi, I'm from London. I'm Swati. I work as a BI specialist at JLL. So I've been with Tableau since 6 years now, and now with the Newbie Tug has been 1.5 years, probably 1 year, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, Viraj.
Hi everyone. So this is Viraj here. I'm from Mumbai, India, and probably we must have heard me say this a lot, but it's a true thing that I am a Tableau newbie at heart. So always learning new things from this group and from the various awesome community members. Welcome to this group.
Okay, and Laura has rejoined us. Laura is in Chicago. You want to come on and reintroduce yourself?
Yeah.
What you do?
Yeah. So I was part of Newbie Tug until last year, and I just kind of fell off my map a little bit. So I'm Jim and Viraj and everybody close has been so eager for me to join back. So they have let me join back. So I've been so grateful to be part of this team. I learned so much, and I think I've been part of the Newbie Tug since when we first started. They've been great mentors. Like, I've learned so much. I still go back to some of the early Tug meetings if I have questions and things like that. So I really enjoyed being part of this group. And I first started using Tableau, first heard about it in my master's program. I took a class, but it didn't really go anywhere. So now I'm using Tableau at my work now. So that's how I got back into it. I just recently made another Tableau dashboard that has been really pivotal in my work. I work as a senior business intelligence analyst at a law firm in Chicago, and it has been a fantastic opportunity for me to grow. And this team has helped me so much. And that's all I can say. They've been fantastic. And I'm so glad you all are here meeting us and joining us for this.
Laura's a superstar, and we're so glad to have her back. And we mean that sincerely, all of us.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Klaus has parental duties today, and he can't be with us. Klaus is in Germany, for those of you who don't know. And He and his daughter are at her school's, we call it parent-teacher organization here in the States. I don't know what they call it in Germany, but they have a meeting tonight. Maddie is on vacation. Maddie is in Maine, and she's enjoying Maine, and she can't be with us today. For those of you who don't know, my name's Jim Daner. I am one of the Tableau visionaries. I'm also a Forums ambassador. And I've been using Tableau for 10 years now. Okay. We take a look ahead and we see where we are. We're down here on September 23rd. And sorry for that error. And today we're going to be talking about actions, and then Kevin is going to present as we noted before. Now, in the next meeting, and this will be our last meeting of the year, on the 13th of November, and you'll probably want to mark this on your calendar right now. We're going to have a really fun session with Tori Levinson. And if you don't know Tori, Tori's a visionary. He's a lot of fun. But he is going to do a session on 40 tips in 40 minutes. It's speed tipping. It's a fun. It's a good way to end the year. Tori, I think Tori's out there. You want to turn on your mic, Tori, and just say hi to everybody?
Yeah, hi. You said you've been using Tableau for 10 years. I started in version 7, which is now 13 years ago. So I really love to share tiny Tableau tips, and me and Young will do that. If we get more than 40 minutes, we'll share even more than 40 tips, but it's going to be so fun.
Okay, Tori, plan ahead. We'll give you 41 minutes. I want that last tip to be really great now. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, hey, we can't keep up with it. We can't keep up with it. But that session will be recorded, and you'll be able to slow that down, and you'll be able to see how to do each one of those tips. Tori, who is your co-presenter for this?
It's Nyong Lee. She was my sidekick, or I was her sidekick at the conference in San Diego this year. So she works as a consultant in the information lab in Germany. So she loves pie charts way more than I do. So we do have a bit of a beef there. So,
okay.
We'll see some of that.
Very good. Thank you for being with us this morning, Tori. I know you have other obligations.
See you in November.
Okay, very good. We're looking forward to it. Okay, now Viraj is, we're going to do a transition here. Viraj is going to take over, and he's going to talk about actions and the various type of actions and how you can use those to interact between worksheets, between dashboards and worksheets. And there's a...
Okay, so it's time for action. Okay, so yeah, this is one of the what do you say, the features which everyone loves about to use, because that's what gets your dashboard into what is it, into some action, probably making it um, make it more lively. So I kind of asked the chat GPT to give me a witty opener for Tableau Actions. So so this is something which is picked up from the chat GPT. I'm saying, ever wish your dashboard could do more than just sit there? No, I'm sure I'm going to probably contradict to what probably Kevin is going to present, infographics. So I'm going to say, ever wish your dashboard could do more than just sit there? Let's teach them to react, respond, and even redirect using Tableau Actions. Okay, so moving ahead, so we have seen there are 6 different actions that we can perform on a dashboard with the dashboards and the sheets. So filter, highlight, go to URL, go to sheets, change parameter, change set values. So these are the ones which we'll be talking about. So the very basic and the very first Tableau action anyone learns while working on Tableau is that filter action. So why do we need this filter action? It's simple requirement, or simple use case is, no one likes the information overload. Some people would want to uh, have some control about what I want to view, or what I can change the view with simple clicks or some action. Okay, so here is a simple dashboard, state-wise sales, some trends across the customer segment, and again a subcategory sales. Now, although I have probably cramped up this view, but still, if you had a much more complex views around, you would like to see it drill down or looked specifically which I want to look at. So probably I want to look at one particular state. So when I say California, what do I want to look at? Do I want to look? I want to look at California sales, how it trends compared to the different segments, or how the subcategory sales within California looks good. So one way is to have a filter where one can select and do it, but having filter kind of creates an maybe too many clicks or actions. So why not just have one single action? So I'll just click on a state, it automatically changes the view, and that's where you get the filter action. This applies to any place where you can click on it. Now, how do you set this up? So nothing. You go to the dashboard. You have this option called actions, and my favorite, quickest way or favorite way to open a action dialog box is using the shortcut key on my Windows, Control Shift D. Probably on Mac it's Command. So okay, if you're building it for the first time, this will be all empty. Right now there are a bunch of actions already built in, so you probably will see something like this. So and you will see it based on this radio button. There are different actions which are um, within the workbook and specifically on this sheet. So when you say this sheet, it is all focused on the current dashboard that I am on. Okay. So yeah, so what is this filter actions going to do about? So what do we want? We want to click on a state and then filter the other two charts. So how do we do that? We just say click add action, we do a filter, and then we have all the sheets here within the source sheet. So the action works from a source sheet affecting the target sheet. Okay, so you need to click on one particular sheet, which will be your source to drive that action, and that's where you will be selecting that sheet. So in our case, I'm going to select the state-wise sales. Okay, and you want this to be applied on what target sheets? You want to do it on the other two sheets that we have, like this sales trend and the subcategory sales. And you want it to apply it on all the fields and don't want to focus on any specific one. You just want to do it. So what call it filter state drill down. It's a good practice to name a filter action in a more sensible way, because that will help you understand what you built it for and what it is used for. If you don't name it, it's just going to be like a mess, like you have filter 1, filter 2, and so on, just like what we have in some Excel files, sheet 1, sheet 2, and goes up to sheet 99,000 or whatever. Okay, so now what do you want? What are we trying to achieve here? So we want to say click on the state and then change the values on the other sheets. But then what when I unselect the selection? So if I selected California, now I want to go back to the full view. What do you want it to do? So that's what that these options mean. So you say while you clear the selection, you keep the filtered values, or you show all the values, or you exclude all the values. Now we'll just quickly see what these three does. Okay, and we'll come to the this section run action on in a minute. So I've just set up this okay. Okay, so I've set up this action. Now, how does it work? So I'm just clicking on one of the state, and then this changes. Now, when I unselect this, everything goes blank. Why? Because we have selected exclude all values. So basically, we just clearing the view, and we want it to show up only when some action is selected or some state is selected. We'll say show all values. So this way what happens is when I click on a state, it will show the state values, and when I unselect it, it will go back to the original state, showing all the values. Now you can, this is for clearing the action. And how do you want to implement this action? So there are three different ways to do it: hover, select, and menu. If you see hover, so what happens is the moment you move your cursor, it starts filtering, it looks nice for some animation purpose. So probably if you're doing a live demo or something, you can probably, show some animated effects on it. But then it's a bit tricky, because if you just by mistake and move your cursor a few centimeter, you're changing the states. Yeah, so that's not helpful. So the other way is to oops, sorry, the other way is to have an option select saying menu. Okay, so now what does this do? This is just adding a additional click, ensuring that you don't click it by mistake. So you get this small hyperlink here, which has the name that it's filter drill down. When you click on it, only then the filter gets applied. Okay, so this is only when you have multiple filters and you just want to ensure that you're clicking on the correct one. So, but the most simple and the most safe option would to have run the action on select and show all values based on your requirement. So let's keep that how it is. So this is how it's going to work. Okay. Okay, just let me move this out of my window. Okay, great. So moving on to the next action, which is called highlight actions. Oops. So now what does highlight action do? Highlight action does just what it says. It highlights. Now, but what does it highlights? So you must have seen or used your presentations or PPTs, and people use the laser or some pointers to take your attention to a particular section on their slide or in the presentation, because that's what the presenter wants you to look at. Okay, so same thing works here. So you can probably say, I just want to see copier sales and how it looks in the different charts. So copier subcategory sales is what we have selected. I can see the ship mode cross tab with subcategory, and then also the trend of subcategory sales on the monthly trend for the year 2025. Now this is helpful specifically, as I said, it's more like if it's too much cluttered or it's too cramped up information, then this kind of action helps. Again, you can set it up using the same way. Open up the actions, and with this you're going to say highlight. Again, in this also you have the similar parameters like source sheets, target sheets. How do you want to run it on? Again, you can run it on hover, select, or menu. And then you can also select how many which sheets should it apply to. Do you want to focus on any specific field, and so on. So right now I have not named the sheets correctly, so I just have to verify I'm selecting the correct sheets. So I'm going to start with sheet 4, and I'm going to say let's add a highlight action which runs on sheet 4 and on hover. Okay, it applies to all the rest of the sheets, and I'm going to say all fields, and I say highlight subcategory sales, or rather just highlight subcategory, and I'll say okay. I'll just remove this one and then okay. So now what happens is the moment I hover on it, that particular category gets subcategory gets selected in both the charts. Okay, now you can in specifically highlighting, it works fine to have it on hover, but you can also have it on select if you want, or also on menu. But it's I prefer doing it on hover because it helps flow of the presentation go from one point to the other. So you can do this also. Okay, so moving on to the URL actions. And well, URL action is something, it is really helpful when you have to connect or move your or add some additional information to your dashboard, to the view that you're bringing in. and you can probably connect to the external systems, websites. You can also link it to a document, or you can also link it to some other dashboards as well, published dashboards. um, so one of the many use cases that I found out, and I particularly used it many times, is because I work on a lot of retail data. So showing the product page. So if I'm talking about two products and I just want to see what this product look like, or on a particular website, or just an image, I'll just click on the product and then it shows up. So that's the best use case of URL action that I've seen. But what do you need for this URL action? You need to have a URL in your database, okay, in your data set, without which obviously you cannot. You can work around on it, but then it's good to have a URL, proper URL, which links to a website or some resource which you want to move your attention to. Okay, so right now I have picked up the data set of the Tableau ambassadors for this year. So let's so I had the data of the list of ambassadors, the country they are, and the profile, and their profile on the ambassador page. So let's set up the URL action. So you go to URL option over here, and here if you see, again there are some of the options are same, but there are something different here. Okay, so again, you need to have a source sheet. So every action you need to have some source sheet where you want to initiate the action on, or trigger the action on. Okay, so right now I am going to trigger it on this sheet 16, which is the list of the bar chart, and also I want to list it on the uh, ambassador list, or rather I'll focus it on the ambassador list. And if you see, there is something called URL target, and it says new tab if no web page object exists, a new browser tab, or a web page object. And then you want to run it on what, if it's hover, select, or menu. So I'll just say select, and I'll come to this part in a minute, what this URL target means. Okay, let me name it open ambassador profile. Okay, I'll just click on. Okay, so now, so what happens is, the moment I click on any of these ambassador names, so I'm probably going to filter it on US, and I'm going to select our 10 years use, our, I think 8 times Tableau ambassador, right, Jim, if I'm correct? And I just click
Actually,
on
9.
9. Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. And this is a problem why it doesn't open up. Okay, let me recheck. Probably okay. URL is a deep link, which is the way URL that a URL field that we have. That's what I didn't select. So I'm going to go back and select the country USA, coming down to the list, and I click on Jim's, and that's where his profile will load up, and I'm not sure why it's not loading up. Okay, it's there. So now you wonder what this object is. So this is the object called web page, which is a dashboard object where you can use any URL, any website address, and it shows up. Okay, so you can embed the website within your dashboard like that. Okay, so
Just as a mention here to help clarify, all of the ambassadors have that same type of profile on a single page. And Viraj is going to that page, and he happens to be picking off my
yeah,
profile.
that's correct. So if we go and we want to look at someone else's profile, like our guest speaker, and I just have to look out for that, and that's where you see his profile. And yes, you can adjust it to show up just his page. It's a natural page, it just goes to that page. Okay, So that's how it works. So now what if you don't want to show it here? Okay, so I'll probably just change the URL action, and I'll just say that you open it up in a browser tab. Okay, so I'll just click on that. So now when I do this, so if I'll just go to India and I say, okay, I'm going to pick up my profile now. So if I click on this and it opens up on a tab, it takes time to load, and this is where it takes me to. Okay, and this is the URL which Jim was talking about. This is the list of all the Tableau ambassadors. I just paste it in the chat. You can check those. So that's how the URL action works. Okay, so moving ahead to go to sheet action. Okay, so now go to sheet action is something, I would say it's just a navigation action, moving from one dashboard to a different sheet, or one dashboard to the other dashboard, and so on. It doesn't filter, it just navigates. Okay, so let's open up this action dialog box, and you say go to sheet. Okay, so now if you see, it doesn't have any complicated or any additional fields that you need to pick up. So it's just that which show sheets. Okay, so you want to click on one sheet, and then where do you want to go? Okay, so there is no filter as such, nothing. You just have to go to some other dashboard. So I'm just going back to what are actions, and here you can hover it on select or menu. Okay, and then I'll say I'll just name it go to and navigate to first slide. I'm just going to say slide, although it's a dashboard. So okay, I just probably have to remove this one. Okay, so now whichever mark on the chart I click, it will navigate me to a different dashboard. Okay, so for example, I'm just saying okay, paper, so it just navigates me to a different dashboard. Now in this scenario, it is just moving from one page to the other page. It's more like, on a website, you click on one link and you go on to the other link. But in an ideal use case scenario, it would be great to associate it with, like, you have a category summary view, and then there is a more detailed category dashboard. So you click on that category, and then it takes you to the specific category. Okay, and that way you will have to just move it. You probably can add a filter. If you want to do it as a filter, then use a filter action. But if you just want to navigate it, you can just click on the go to sheet. So now, for example, if I click on this takes me back to the go to sheet dashboard. Okay, so okay, great. So now coming to one of my very favorites, favorite two actions, which is set actions. So this is particularly used, when you want to have that control about what kind of views you want to select, or marks that you want to select, and also try to uh, build a view accordingly. As in, if you want to say okay, I want to have a set of two values show up, and then see how it compares with the others. Or the other very commonly used case is for drill down. Okay, so if you have a view, like you have it at a category subcategory level, but you just want to show a category view first, click on one category and then drill down to the subcategory. So it's about optimizing the space, and trying to not overload a lot of information on one go. So right now, if you see, this is a the dashboard which is talking about region, and then you can also, okay, I probably have clicked on it. Okay, yeah, so this is the region wise sales, and what I have set up as the set action is, the moment you click on one region, it drills down to the categories within that region. Okay, so furniture, technology, office supplies, and I'm sorry for the colors, it's picked up auto, and I have not set up those colors. So while I give this workbook back, when I when we send it out this recording, I clean up the colors. So now I have a view saying that within West region, this is your furnitures. And then when these are your categories. And the further drill down is when I click on a furniture, it drills down to the furniture subcategories. Okay. So in that same view, you're getting a more detailed or more granular information, insights by just clicking on one mark. Okay. Now for that, you need to have a bunch of calculations. Okay. So these are already set, so I'll just probably just walk you through what exactly I'm doing it. So you need to create sets first. So here I'm creating a set for region and also for category. Okay. So it's nothing, you just create a set, and you can select any value by default, and then you also create a subcategory set. Okay. And now the action works based on the calculation. So so let's see the calculation here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm having, as I said, we want to drill down from region to a category level. So what we are doing is the first drill down. So when you say when you're selecting a region set, or when you're changing the set values, then show the category, else you're showing the region. Okay, that's your first level of drill down. Okay. And then your second level of drill down is again another calculation which says if a category set is selected, then show subcategory, else just return blank so that it can go back to the previous level. Okay. Now this is all set as created as a calculation, but this only works when you use it in the set actions. So how to do it? Let's set up those actions in here. So now I already have some actions set up. So I'll just walk you through that. Okay. But it's just the way you select is just change set values. And I'm going to say edit for now. So what I'm going to, again, over here, you have the source sheet, because as I said, if the action needs to be on always applied on us on a source sheet. Okay. Now in this dashboard, it is only one sheet. So it's just showing the same sheets. But now the target is not a sheet, but it's a set. Okay. Because you're going to change the set values based on what you select on the sheet in the dashboard. Okay. So what is the set that I'm going to change? So I'm going to change the region set. So I have selected the region set. Now what happens? So when I click on the region, what I need to do, I need to assign that value to the set. Okay. So that means I need to add that value of region into the set. So set is nothing but in and out value. So you have some values in the set, or you have some values outside the set. So when I click on the sheet or a region, I want that region to be added into the set. And then when it clears, when you uncheck it, you just remove all the values from the set. Okay. And for this, you can set the action based on hover, menu, or select, but it works best from the interactivity point of view if you select the select action. Okay. So that's one. Okay, so let's probably remove these two, and I just look at the region. Okay, so now I have this west region, or rather let's select some other region, east. So when I click on east, what happens is I'm saying put that east value in the set and then show this chart based on the inset. Okay, so now I'm going to I'm looking at all the uh, categories within the region. Okay, and then you can also I'll just undo it for a minute. Mm, yeah. Okay, so now you can have one more drill down, which is now I'm going to change the set for categories. Okay, again, so you're going to assign the values in the category set and then remove from all based on the set. So I'm going to say drill down to. Okay, so now when I select furniture, okay, so I'm going to say furniture, it goes down to the subcategories of that furniture. So that's how the set action works. Okay. Moving ahead to the parameter actions. So you can do this the same drill down using the parameter action, but one of my favorite ways to use parameter is to change the measures that you use in your chart by using uh, the the measure names itself. So that's where I prefer using the parameter action. Now what is parameter action? It's quite similar to the set actions, I would say, but it's more like um, you it allows users to change the parameter values through interactions, and even having some dynamic calculations and any other visual changes. Okay. And it's highly customizable. You can create more interactivity through parameters action, specifically if you want to leverage the dynamic zone visibility. Okay. S- but right now I'll just show you some basic working of the parameter action. So here what I have done is I have created a selection, a measures selection. So if I click on discount, my whole chart changes based on that measure selected. So earlier by default, earlier when we learn about parameters, you add a parameter. Okay. So you say um, okay, so probably you would say I want to look at this value. Okay. So you would have a list of parameters, and you can select which measure name you want to look at. But then with the parameter actions, you can do it based by on the click. So a less number of clicks from the parameter drill down to using the parameter action here. Okay. So how did we set this up? Okay. So for that, again, we need to have some kind of calculation here. So what I did is, now this is the very few instances where we can use measure names in the calculation. Okay. So what I've done is I have created, and this is the example I picked up from Andy Kriebel's you know um, video about parameter actions. So what I've done is I've added measure names to the fields, to the view. I've selected only the measures that I want to select. You can have other measures added as well. And I also created a parameter, and this is nothing but a simple string parameter. Um, you can have any default value. You can just set it, or you can keep it blank. And when you want to control the view, okay, that's where it will be used. So for example, I'll come back to this view, and here you're going to use uh, okay, I probably used wrong one. Yeah. Okay. So here you're going to use this calculation. It's a simple standard calculation about case when if you're still if a particular parameter value is selected, just so corresponding measure. Okay. And then you're going to use this into your bar chart, and you can probably add it into your label so that it accordingly changes. And then you come to your dashboard, and then you set your actions. Okay. So I'm going to say change parameter. Okay. Now again, here you again have the source sheet, and instead of a target sheet, you now have a target parameter. Just the way we had target set, we have a target parameter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the PM measure names. That means this sheet where you have all the measure names listed, and you're going to change the parameter. So which parameter are you going to change? The one that we created with the name P names, measure names. Okay. And how do you, so when you click on the mark, you are going to change the parameter value. Okay. but but you're changing the parameter value based on which field. Okay. So you're going to say I'm going to use measure name. So this is where the rarest case where you can leverage measure name in the calculation or in the interactivity. Okay. So what happens is when someone clicks on a mark on the sheet, it changes the parameter value based on this field. Okay. Again, you can run this on hover select menu, And after clearing, you can either set the value to say by default, I want to show it as sales, or you can just keep the current one. Okay, so I'll just say okay. And for now, sales, and I'll just, okay, I should have named it show measures. Okay, cool. And I'll just remove the other ones. Okay, so now when I click on discount, my whole chart changes to discounts. Okay, formatting, we need to change the formatting. And when I clear this selection, it defaults to sales. Okay, it would work the same if I click on sales. It doesn't make any changes. The moment I select other measures, it changes, and when I unselect it, it changes back to sales. Okay, so that's how the parameter actions work. Okay, now I know there are a lot of actions that you can implement, and there are different, you need not do one action at a time. You can have combination of action. You can have filters and URLs, filters and parameters, and so on, a lot of combination. But while you do that, there are some important tips that you need to follow. Okay, so very first thing, you need to understand there is a execution sequence of actions. Okay, just like we have the order of operations, so there is an order of actions here. Okay, so how does it work? So first parameter action works, then the set, filter, go to, highlight, and then URL. Okay, so when you are building multiple actions, you need to take into account like how it's going to work. So you have to set those filters actions accordingly. Okay, and yes, this is something which is good practices. You always use descriptive names so thoroughly, so that you can understand what that action does, and tomorrow if you have to hand it over to someone else, you make their life easy as well. Although these actions help your interactivity, but you need to also keep in mind, how much of the actions are we really implementing. So if it's too much, it's going to affect your performance, or it's going to make the user experience but tricky, because sometimes if you just hover and the action gets executed, and then everything is a mess. So you need to be very cautious about how you and how many actions you want to implement. And at times, now it's like use tooltips. So this works best when you have multiple actions and you want to ensure that it doesn't get applied even by mistake. So you can add the menu option, which we said, which we used in this example, when we say we show it as menu, and then it shows up as a part of the tooltip. Okay, and then it controls what to say, unwanted interactivity, unwanted actions. Okay, so that's all I had to share about the Tableau actions. Hope you found it informational. Okay,
Great presentation, Viraj.
thank you.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I think there's one or two questions out in the Q&A that you might want to follow up with.
Sure, I'll look into that. Yeah.
Okay, our guest speaker today is Kevin Wee. Kevin is a Tableau visionary as well as a Tableau Public ambassador. And Kevin, I'm going to let you explain to them how many times you've been a visionary and ambassador, because quite honestly, I don't know. Kevin and I go back a long way. I met Kevin when he was graduating with his PhD from Purdue. I met him virtually, and he and I are Boilermakers, so we share that in common, and we're suffering through a football season, so be gentle on both of us today. Okay. Kevin leads the BI group over at Discover Credit Card, and that does not mean he can correct any balance error that you might have on your own. He's a tremendous presenter. We are pleased to have him today. Kevin, if you're ready, I'm going to stop sharing, and the audience is yours.
Sure. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and when I do that, I just want to make a small correction. Well, first of all, Discover doesn't have any internal Tableau user group, but I am, however, one of the common data coach that provide training sessions for Tableau when we have a new batch of analysts coming in. For example, about 1 to 2 weeks ago, I just gave basic Tableau desktop training to about 70 new analysts that just hired in Discover. So yeah, we don't have a tug, but we have an equivalent of that for new users. And I'm part of the training force, so to speak. So today I'll be talking about the applications of graphic design concepts in my own data infographics. My name is Kevin Wee. If we have any Mandarin speaking people here today, it's Huang Kewen. That's my name in my native tongue. I've been a Tableau visionary for 2 times, and I believe ambassador since 2022. So 4 times as an ambassador. I'm glad to be back again. I'm currently the lead business intelligence analyst at Discover, which is a credit card company for those who are not in the United States. So let's go through today's agenda. I'll start by showing you a couple of my infographic visualization, just so we can have a sense of how that is different as a concept than business dashboard. Then we're going to go through 5 graphic design concepts that are information hierarchy, layout, spacing, typography, and color. We're going to end the session with some open resources for all of you to continue your education in infographic design and creation. So let's talk a little bit more about myself. As what Jim said, I was a Boilermaker. I guess I still am a Boilermaker. I was at Purdue from 2016 to 2021 for my PhD research. I was a chemist by training, but by the end of my experience as a graduate student, I realized that I didn't like the cooking part that much, but I really liked the data analytics and visualization part, which is the second half of my PhD. So I used that part. I decided to only continue my career on the second half of my PhD research. As I said earlier, I'm part of the training force for Tableau inside the company. We provide a lot of trainings for new analysts, and I also occasionally support some technical troubleshooting for some of my Tableau analyst coworkers as well. As a Tableau visionary and Tableau ambassador, I provide a lot of training sessions, knowledge sharing talks on the stage at Tableau conferences, as well as online, like what I'm doing now. You can find out all of the online video recording on my own Tableau YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and find me at Tableau, kevinwee.com. Just go to YouTube and find my name, and you shall be able to access to all of my presentations. So that's enough about me. Now let's talk about you. By the end of today's session, you should be able to, number 1, describe the roles of graphic design in infographic creation. You should be able to identify at least 5 graphic design concepts that can be applied in a well-designed infographics and their user experience impact. Of course, I will be presenting more than 5 concepts, but try not to drink from the hose. Just pick random 5 concepts that speak to you the most and try to understand them. We're going to end the session, like I said earlier, with open resources for your future inspiration and self-paced learning. So make sure you stay till the very end to obtain all of these information. So with that said, before I start going through the presentation, there are 2 notes for you and for me. Number 1, it's a lot of recommendations that I will be making later. They often stem from my own craft experience. A lot of them has some scientific evidence behind them, but we're not going to spend much time talking about those. So a lot of this advice, recommendations for design, most of them are my take. Number 2, design, it's an iterative process. Today, because presentation is inherently linear, I'm going to go through the concepts one by one. But when you are creating your own infographics, oftentimes you'll have to tweak the colors like back and forth. You have to tweak the types back and forth. So just have that concept in your mind when you are listening to my talk today. So now let's talk about some of my infographic business. if you have the chance to go to my Tableau Public portfolio, that I have over 60 visualizations since 2020. Some of the attendants today may have more visualization than I, but I guess my specialty is creating something that I call infographic dashboards. These are the dashboards that they don't look like business dashboard. They're not about sales, not about the performance of a company. They're more artistic and highly interactive. Users can play with the dashboard and trying to see what kind of interactions would happen, what kind of new information would present when the charts change. So these are the dashboard that I want users to take time to digest, to interact with. Let me show you some of the dashboard as an example. The first dashboard that I like to show you, oh, by the way, this is my Tableau Public profile. If one of you, oh, thanks, Jim, for putting the link of my Tableau Public in the chat. This is a dashboard that I like to show you today. It's a dashboard that I made for a DataFam challenge called EduVisors. One of the hosts of EduVisors, Dennis Cow, is here with us today. I saw a data set for the challenge. It's about every data analytics programs in the United States higher education institutes like colleges and universities, and various informations about these programs. So I created this dashboard to show you the geographical locations in the map, and then what kind of degrees all of these programs are offering, what's their location, whether these programs offer housing or not, and then some of the metrics for these school, like the distributions of the metrics. For example, student population, undergraduate student percentages, net price in average, and the graduation rate of these institutes. What's unique about this visualization is it leveraged a lot of the concepts that Raj just presented. Number one, parameter action. Currently, it's highlighting a specific school, a specific university in Texas. It's the University of Texas of Arlington, right? The yellow dot, the golden crumb, literally highlighting this school, and then all the yellow dots indicating the metric and dimension and categories of this specific school. Jim is from Purdue, so let's go to Purdue and see Purdue's data analytics program. I believe it's this dot. Purdue University Global. So when you click the dot, you will see that now using parameter action will shift the focus to what Purdue is offering. Purdue is offering various degrees and certificates. It's in a city, does not provide housing because I believe this one is closer to Chicago. This is not the main campus in Lafayette. Purdue has high student population, high undergraduate percentage, very cheap, and however, rather low graduation rate when it comes to data analytics programs. So this is a dashboard that I created for this challenge. This dashboard is actually currently featured in Tableau Public education topic. If you scroll to the bottom, you will see my visualization as one of the featured infographics. The second example I like to show you, it's a dashboard I created solely using a data set that I found online. How many of you have had dim sum before? If you have had it, could you put it in the chat, like a +1? Anchor? Yep. Couple of you? Yes. Dim sum dishes, it's a Chinese, or more specifically, a Cantonese cuisine. It comes with a small plates of food, and then the foods often look very beautiful, very sweet, very greasy, but you can eat it. Everything is in a bite size. So in this visualization, I attempt to convey my love for this kind of food because I'm a half Cantonese, and each of the petal of the lotus, each lotus represent a dish. Each petal of the lotus represent a certain kind of nutrient. For example, total carbohydrates, total sugar, total fat, saturated fat, protein, sodium, and so on. And the darker the color of a petal, the more nutritious a specific nutrient type is compared to your recommended daily intake. So here we can see that the steamed soup dumpling is high protein, high sodium compared to what you should be taking. Siu mai, it is a very light dish. This visualization leverages a couple of design. Number one, it's a long form visualization like this. Number two, I leverage something that we call a multi-hue color palette. Basically, it's a sequential color palette. It changes saturation and it changes color. You go from light pink to dark purple. And also I leverage this in the tooltip like this. There's a bar chart in the tooltip for the bar chart lovers. We also have more information buttons. Now, when you hover over the icon, more information icon is speak out the certain numbers about the daily reference values. These are how much you should be eating every day as an adult. Yeah, so this visualization is actually very important to me because it's actually featured in Andy Kirk's data visualization handbook. If you go to the pages, you can see that the visualization is actually featured in it. So I'm glad that my creation, it's in a book that I deem as a data visualization textbook. Feel free to go check it out. It's available on Amazon. Oh, he did not give me any money to promote his book. So this is just me shouting out to him. So I've been creating a lot of data infographics. How have I been doing them? And what kind of graphic design concepts you may leverage to create your own infographics? So now let's talk about you. Coming back here. The first concept that I leverage, it's often, I call it information hierarchy. Basically, I'm trying to create a fine dining experience to present the information so that it's digestible for the users. Earlier with the infographics that I've shown, there are a lot of charts, right? However, charts are not the only thing in my infographic. We also have a lot of text, the title, the description paragraphs, the legends, and so on. We also have something like buttons, URL links, things like that. So with all of this information, how could we help readers discern the heroes of the story from the cameos, the supporting characters? More importantly, how do we keep them engaged without overwhelming them? You can see that my infographic is often a lot of information on it. How do we make it digestible to them? I'm going to use a dashboard that we will co-create today as an example. It's about data podcasts of my favorite. Let's go to Tableau Public and figure this out together, shall we? 1, 2, 3. I think I put it here. Great. Let me shut all this off. Oh, that is, you're not supposed to see it, but sure. I create, using, Python web scraping, I found all of the data podcast channels that I've been listening over the years, and I selected the top 12 of my favorite, and their episodes since 2020 till the September of 2024. And then with all these episodes, I have so much information. I have about how long each episode is, their short descriptions, the URL to their Spotify page, and then of which day of a year they were released. So I have so much information packed in my charts. So this is what with B-Swarm chart, right? We have things arranged according to the time, and it's arranged along the x-axis, the y-axis, based on how many episodes is in a month. Here you can see that using parameter action, when I select a certain data podcast channel, it would highlight those episodes on top. And then the darker the color, the longer the episode is. And when I select another channel, let's say PolicyViz podcast by John Schwabish, you can see that these are the episodes that's been released by him. And then when you hover over it, you can read more about information. We also have the short description of those podcasts, every podcast list as text form. We also have the total count of each podcast channel. Currently, the PolicyViz is being selected. That's why it has a different color. If we select data plus love, its color will turn into orange because I'm using the highlighting color. We have a simple text about the podcast. I also have a chart about the distributions of the episode length. For example, Data plus Love, most of the episode is 30 minutes to 45 minutes. The circle represent the other 11 channels, just to show the overall distribution. The dual axis podcast is slightly longer. It ranges from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. I also have another chart about of which day of a week the podcast is usually released. For example, Data plus Love is often released on Wednesday. And I know that the Analytics Power is often released on Tuesday. So I have all of these informations about about these podcast episodes. I created all of these charts. Other than all of these charts, I also have so many texts that I want to put in the dashboard. We have the title, we have my name, we have paragraphs describing what that infographic is about, and all this different information. So with all these informations and charts that I have, how do we present them in a digestible way? Here's what I usually do at the very beginning of my infographic creation. I rank the information bits based on their importance and relevance. So we're going to go through this together. Oh, here. Number one, I try not to shove the informations into the reader's throat, and I'm trying to serve these informations to the readers one by one. Here's what I mean. Number one, we always start with an appetizer, right? We're going to give them some context sufficient enough for them to understand what's going on with the dashboard. This involves the title, who created the dashboard, and a description paragraph. Number two, the main course. These are the charts showing the information and the related UI component for the chart. For example, the legends or the click me text so that people know to interact with a certain chart. And then we have the dessert part of my infographics. These are the critical supplemental information. They should know this if they need to find them, but it's okay if they overlook this piece of information when they consume my visualization. These informations such as data source, the credit, how I got the data, or who helped me to create the infographic, or who inspired me for the final design of the infographics. Last but not least, these are the cherry on top. These are the informations that the readers would only obtain if they actually interact with the dashboard. If they click around, they would go to a certain episode. They will see the descriptions of the episodes, or they will go to the Spotify webpage of that episode. So this is how I arrange the information. But how do we actually put them on the canvas coherently without the sense of overwhelm? That go to the second graphic design concept, that is laid out. There's several sub-concepts of laid out that I'll be talking today. Number one is aspect ratio. When you create an infographic, there are two routes you can pick. You can either choose the landscape mode or the portrait mode. No matter what you do, here are some guidelines. If you're doing landscape mode, it's good for you to keep the aspect ratio in the golden rectangle ratio, which is 1 to 1.618. The reason why a golden rectangle is best for landscape mode is because you would be able to show everything in the Tableau Public thumbnail. The screenshot in Tableau Public is in a golden rectangle. And if you choose to go to a long form or a portrait mode, it's best to keep the top part in a golden ratio, and the bottom part of that golden rectangle, you give them some signal to scroll the dashboard so that people know that there's some more information at the bottom of that screen. Using screenshots of my Tableau Public as an example, you can see that for this dashboard, for the landscape mode dashboard, they all fit completely within the golden rectangle. And for the ones that are slightly longer, usually at the bottom half of bottom part of the screenshot, there's something more there, so that to tell people there's actually something more down there, you need to scroll the dashboard. So aspect ratio. Number 2, I like to talk about grid. A lot of people didn't know that, but when you are creating a dashboard using Tableau Public or Tableau Desktop, when you click G on your keyboard, there will be a 20-point grid, square grid pop up. You can use the grid to align text. You can also use the grid to align containers. So they're highly, highly useful if you want to keep things neat. The third concept I'd like to introduce to you is what I call the reading path. For English speakers and Mandarin speakers, and maybe most of the people in the world, where you write from left to right, top to bottom, your reading path is either in a Z path or an F path. So if you place your things in that order, people will read things as you intended. So how do we apply what we've learned so far in the dashboard? Going back to the dashboard here, you can see that number 1, we start with this custom size, fixed size custom dimension, which is 1600 width and a 988 height. This is in the golden rectangle aspect ratio. And then when you click G on a keyboard, you will show and hide the square grid. That's how you can use it to, align your components. And here's what I did so far. I dumped everything that I've talked about in the grid. You can see that I tried to align the box, the text, the title box, right? Just using the grid as an alignment. It's either that or the paragraph. I use the baseline of the first sentence to align the paragraph, and the first line of the title as well to align with the grid. So that's how you align things. So that's how you leverage the power of layout to place things on the canvas first. Of course, we're not done yet. Now, let's go back to spacing. Earlier, when you look at that dashboard, it looks very crowded, right? It's still like things are in place, good place, but it still looks quite overwhelming, a lot of things on it. So how can we create some space on the dashboard to help the users understand that which part is the appetizer, which part is the main course, which part is the dessert? There are 2 ways that you can do this. Number 1 is via grouping. There are 3 main ways you can group things on a dashboard. Number 1, just by proximity. Just shove things closer to each other and further away from other components. So using grouping, proximity grouping, that's a way to accomplish it. Or you can create a border on the things that you want to group together. Then people will perceive them as a group. If you don't want to use a border, you can also use shading at the background of the component that you want to group together. So these are 3 different ways to group things. The second concept I'd like to introduce to you is negative space. Oftentimes, the reason why the dashboard looks so cluttered is because you didn't put sufficient space between elements. So things look very suffocating and claustrophobic. There's several ways for you to improve this. Number 1, you can either put spacing between the text and the component borders, and you can also put some empty space between the borders and let's say the charts or the buttons inside the border. So these negative spaces, it helps us digest the information in chunk, so that making each part of the dashboard more in bite size, less overwhelming, less cognitive overload. Going back to the dashboard again, when we apply spacing, this is what it looks like. You can see that I grouped the title into one solid border, using one solid border. And for the main, Not sure what that is. For the main hero bee swarm chart here, I put all of them in one brackets. And for the length and the release week of the day, I put these two as one group. So we have group 1, group 2, group 3, using border as a grouping, using shades as a grouping. And for the top part here, I use proximity as a grouping. This cluster of bar charts belong in one. The paragraph, they belong in one. They're closer to each other, but further away from other components. Now, let's go to the, now we already talked about this, the applications of what we have learned. The fourth concept I'd like to talk about today is typography. The text that you put on the dashboard, you can tweak them more than what you thought. There's several attributes of text that you can tweak on Tableau dashboard. Number one is the style of the text. Oftentimes, they're either sans serif or serif. Serif fonts means that the font has, the additional strokes at the bottom or at the top of the text, like the I letter. Serif fonts often convey traditional sense, or a sense of more fancy, something more polished. And sans serif fonts often used in a more modern interface or something more leisure. Typeface just mean different fonts. For example, this is Salesforce Sans. It's very close to Tableau Sans. Palatino, it's a serif font. Arial, Futura, Copperplate, these are some of the more commonly known font. Note that not all fonts or not all typeface are Tableau Public safe, meaning that even though if you use this font on Tableau Desktop and when you publish them on Tableau Public or Tableau Server, this font won't render. For example, Futura or Copperplate, these two fonts, they will not render on Tableau Public. So you cannot use this font. You have to use the font that are web safe for Tableau Public. Font size. In the world of infographic design, we often recommend people to not go below 10 points just because it got too small and then people cannot read them for accessibility issue. And when you create hierarchies of text using font size, we oftentimes ask you to go a little bit further. So for example, don't use 32 and then 36. We won't be able to tell the difference. If you use 32, the next bigger font, you should use 40 or something with a larger distance between the font's points. The other thing about fonts is the formatting. Using Tableau font as an example, we have Tableau bold, semi-bold, regular, book, light, and thin. When you choose which formatting to use to create a hierarchy in text, again, don't choose the one that's immediately next to each other. For example, it's hard to tell the difference between regular and semi-bold. But for bold and regular, it's easier for you to tell the difference between them. So when you use this, just only pick a couple of them with a higher contrast in terms of formatting. The last attributes I'd like to introduce today is the color contrast. Of course, we all know that you can tweak the color of text, but oftentimes Tableau, by default, it's using a very light gray font, which is not quite good to create a contrast to your eyes. So we often recommend people to go a little bit darker of a font, but don't use dark pure black. Use maybe dark purple, dark blue, based on the context of your infographics. So now let's apply what we have learned. This is a dashboard that we have earlier, right? Good spacing, but the fonts still look very light. They either, darker gray or lighter gray. So because I want to use something that's fitting podcast data, and we know that Apple Podcast color is purple, so I'm going to go purple for my typography. Just dark purple like this. You can't quite tell. It looks black, but a little bit off. It's actually very, very dark purple. And using this, you can see that we increase the legibility of the font, and also using some of the formatting that I mentioned earlier. Now I emphasize my name in the designer section. I emphasize data analytics, visualization, storytelling, and career in the second paragraph. I make the, what do you call this thing? The credit, the data source, and the inspiration part the smallest, so that they're not taking away the intention from the main course. Most importantly, I keep all of the font setting for the same function the same. For example, the title for all charts, they look the same, right? It's mainly, I believe this is Tableau Medium. And then the supplemental part, I just used font size 10 so that it's just a little bit of an extra information. So this is how I use typography to enhance my infographic design. The last concept I'd like to talk today is color. Color is often overwhelming, and then we all often thought that, oh, the more color, the better. But that may not be always true, especially for new learner. Here are some of the color attributes that you may leverage. Number one, the hue. The hue just means that which angle in the color wheel that color lies. Here we have hue from blue to purple to pink, magenta, and then red and orange. Color saturation is how much pigment in that color and how further away it is from gray, but with the same, lightness. So here we have very, very saturated blue to very, very, very grayish color. Lightness just means that how dark and light of the same color. So here we have very, very dark blue to very, 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 very pale, very, very light blue. Another concept I'd like to introduce today is color contrast, similar to the color contrast for text, but now we're talking about color contrast of charts and other components. Oftentimes, when it comes to contrast, we talk about the contrast in lightness. And why is it about lightness? We'll talk about it later, but here I want you to pay attention to the lightness. When the lightness of the color is very close, it's really hard to read the text or to see the geometry, right? That's specific true when it comes to fine line as well. As a matter of fact, there are accessibility tools out there to rate the contrast ratio, and only these three are recommended for web design. So other than these three, all of these are actually deemed quite, borderline or just straight up inaccessible for other people. And you'll ask me, right, why are we talking about contrast in lightness? How about saturations or hue? Why can't we use them as to create contrast? Here's the reason why. I want you to look at this photo and count how many strawberries. And I'm going to give you 5 seconds. And when you're counting, I want to picture the aneurysm that's about to explode in your brain. You can do that. You can count the strawberry, but it's not a pleasant experience, isn't it? How about now? Let's count the strawberry again. You can tell that even without color, you can do the math a little bit quicker, right? If we only use saturations and if we only use hue as a color contrast, it's so hard to discern things. But if we only use lightness, even just with lightness, it's easier to do the job. That's why we often recommend people to use color lightness over color saturation when it comes to create contrast. Of course, in real life, things more like this. You use both lightness, saturations, and hue to discern things. Now, let's see what we can do to apply color. By default, Tableaus use orange and blue because orange and blue are already kind of color safe, but it's not a good contrast, especially against very dark text, right? So I have to tweak this a little bit. Also, like I said, I want to go purple for Apple Podcast thematic color palette. So what did I do here? Here you go. This is a final dashboard. I use light and dark purple to highlight what to click, what has been selected in my parameter. I also use shades of purples to signify how long an episode is. I also, and here, not just using the color, of course, I also use symbol to tell the difference between the selected channel and the remaining channels. So yeah, look at this. The dashboard is monotonous. I'll say it do 90% of the job. You don't have to always go crazy with Christmas lighting color palette to create a nicely polished dashboard. Lightness and saturation can get you very far. When Jim reached out to me and I told him that, you know what, we're just going to create a dashboard just using Tableau. Of course, this is what I did using just Tableau. But actually, with my power in Tableau and Figma, this is actually the final product that I created. I created a dark mode dashboard. Of course, this is me being super fancy and just to flex. So I use a multi-hue, multi-saturation, multi-lightness color palette, throw it all in, and then just to show you that, hey, you can play with this dashboard all day. It's so fun, like this, right? It uses interaction, parameter actions that Raj said. And when you click on any of the episodes, let's see. That one, I believe, is 2022. Oh, Kevin Wee, click it. It will bring you to Spotify. Now you can listen to that podcast. It's a web URL action as well. So yeah, so this is the final product. You're not here yet because this is the newbies talk, but hey, newbies, you can do this. Now let's go back to the presentations to wrap things up, shall we? I promised open resources for all of you. So later, please go to kevinwee.com. You will obtain resources to learn more about these graphic design resources and a lot of recommendations for data visualization books. And you'll also get a slide deck as well. The video recording, once it's available, I will put a link in that in my blog. Let's wrap up with all this learning objectives, shall we? Number one, we may use graphic design concepts to pique and guide attention. We can use it to convey information hierarchy. We can also use it to improve the delivery of your message. And of course, I told you to understand five design concepts, but today we cover more than 10. So just pick 5, and revisit the video recording, go back, again, watch it for a couple of times to master all of these concepts. And the open resources. Just only take one takeaway you want to get away from today. It's go to kevinwee.com. Go to kevinwee.com. All of the graphic design concepts, ideas, recommendation of books, YouTube channels, they're all there. Just go and then enjoy yourself in the learning of infographic designs and to rely on data fam, each others, to continue your journey in Tableau learning. You can find me in all of these links. I believe Jim has put them in the chat. And I want to thank Jim for inviting me to the presentation. I'd like to thank Discover and Capital One, my companies, for fueling my data visualization journey. And Chimdy's credit to the edit talk actually inspired the presentation format today. He also walked through people how to improve business dashboard instead of infographic dashboards. That's it. Thank you very much. Now I'm open for questions.
Kevin, it's we who are thankful to you. Thank you so much for this presentation. This was just over the top good. The chat has exploded with things that are going on. I think you answered the one that was most pressing when you showed them all your links and the link to your to get the workbook itself, because totally amazed. And just by the way, I saw the influence of the mentor that you mentioned before in the last chart that you showed.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Excellent. Let me just wrap this up real quick, and I'm going to share my screen to make that happen. Okay, very good. I'd remind you again, November 13th is going to be our last meeting of the year, and it is going to be a fun meeting. You met Tori this morning. He's a fun guy, a great presenter, and I'd suggest that you add it to your calendar. You can scan the QR code and sign up right now for the meeting. And we do thank you for being with us today.